Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Pathways to Wealth. I'm your host, Chris Dunn, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about 12 steps to start a business, even if you have a full-time job. And I'll give you the story about how I built my first business when I was 16 years old and how I started making about $3,000 cash every week, even though I was in high school full-time. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so before we dive into the 12 steps, I just want to tell you the story about how I started my first business, which was a car detailing business when I was 16 years old. And before this, my first job was I was a dancing ice cream cone at an ice cream shop making minimum wage. And I quickly learned, this is terrible. I can't work for a wage. This is embarrassing. I need to make more money. And around that time, I actually got what's called in-school suspension. So I did something bad in high school, and I got in-school suspension, which is where they put you in a class where you can't talk to anybody for the entire school day. So from right when the bell rings at 7:30 in the morning till you're released, you can't say a word to anybody. You have to either sit there and do your homework or read books. And seeing how I never did homework in high school, I just started reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and, Think and Grow Rich and a lot of these really inspiring business books. And shortly after that, I started this first business, which was a car detailing business. And you can see this is me and my buddy Chris. We would go into really expensive neighborhoods and we would detail a lot of wealthy people's cars, and then we parlayed that into detailing fleets of cars for companies on the weekends, and we ended up doing car shows and traveling around and ended up selling the product we were using, and it was actually a really cool learning experience. And I can say I learned more from starting that first business than I learned in 4 years of high school or the 1 year that I attempted to go to community college. So I think for anybody that's young saying, hey, I want to start a business, do it. Don't wait. Do it today. And, there were a lot of failures. So I learned a lot. I made big mistakes, but I learned a lot about people, about sales, about quality control, and just about building a business. And after struggling for a few months, we actually started pulling in about $3,000 a week, despite the fact that I was going to school full-time. I was hustling every free minute I had during school. I was working on that business. And so these are the 12 steps that we're going to cover. These are 12 steps that you can do right away if you have a business idea, even if you're working a full-time job. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so step number one is you really want to begin with the end in mind. And step number one is to identify precisely what you want. And I really like this quote that says, if you don't know what you want, you're going to end up with a lot of what you don't. And I've seen so many entrepreneurs make the mistake of building a business just for the paycheck, just for the money. And they end up backing themselves into a corner, owning a business that might be profitable, or maybe it's a business that creates a lot of struggle for you, and you're kind of backed into a business that you really didn't want from the beginning. So the first question is ask, what do you want from your business? Is this something that you want to pursue your passion, or are you solving a problem? Is this something that you want to replace your current income, or do you want just kind of a side hustle just to have additional income? Are you working a full-time job and you want to quit that to do a full-time business, or do you want to just invest in a business that's going to make you extra cash where you can keep doing what you're doing now? Do you want to work in an office or have the freedom of location? Or do you want a brick and mortar office, or do you want to work online and be able to travel? These are all things that you want to think about in advance. That way, before you even put in any effort into building a business, you make sure that it's something that will fulfill your long-term goals. So with that, step number two is choose your business type. So you want to identify the market or the niche that you're in. Is it going to be a tech startup? Is it going to be a home-based business? Is it going to be a franchise that you purchase or invest in? Is it going to be an online business? Are you going to buy an existing business, maybe a cash flow business? Cash flow business like a laundromat or a liquor store, cash intense businesses, brick and mortar businesses. Do you want to be a freelancer or a contractor? Somebody that provides a service, or a service-based business like a maid business or a car detailing company. Just identify the niche that you're in and kind of the capital that's going to require and what that business is going to look like. So step number 3 is to create your business plan. And look, I'll be the first to tell you that no business in history has ever turned out exactly like the founders created on their business plan. A business plan is really just an idea. It's a starting point. But again, your business is going to pivot. It's going to grow. It's going to change. It will never look exactly like your original business plan. But I think it's a good idea to think these types of things out. Your executive summary and company description. Just a few sentences of what your business does. Market analysis. Who are your competitors? What are the price points? What problem are you solving for your customer? Organization and management. Are you a sole proprietor? Do you have partners? Do you have anybody that has equity from day one? Your product and service line. What do you offer? Is it a service-based business? Do you offer both? Like for my business, I started off as a service-based business. I was just hustling, trying to make $50 here and there, and it ended up we had about a dozen guys that were working for me detailing fleets of cars. And then people were really interested in the products we were using. So we started selling the products to people to maintain their cars in between details. And then we started, we launched into the car show business. I bought a couple of really sexy, hot cars, and we put a lot of money into them and took them to car shows and sold our products there and detailed a lot of cars and got really big business accounts from that. So you want to just kind of think about where are you today and where could that grow into? And then marketing and sales. What kind of budget do you have? Are you going to market online? Are you going to market word of mouth, B2B? There's so many different ways that you could go with it, and you just want to think this stuff out ahead of time. Also, funding. Are you going to bootstrap it? Do you have enough capital just to hustle and grind and get it off the ground? Or would it be better to raise capital, either from friends and family, or if you have a much larger business idea with some proof of concept, you could go to angel investors or potentially even VCs or venture capitalists. So there's really kind of 3 tiers: bootstrapping and hustling, which is what I did in my first business. And I'm actually not a fan of, in my businesses, raising capital. I like to hustle and keep 100% of the equity. But for some business types, tech startups in particular, it might make sense to raise capital from angels or VCs. And then financial projections. You just want to think this stuff out. And again, your financial projections, your business will never, maybe 1 in a million shot will you hit exactly those numbers. Sometimes you'll surprise yourself and blow your projections out of the water. A lot of times you'll fall short and have to pivot or change something to meet your projections. So step number 4, really simple. Choose your business structure. Is this going to be an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, a partnership? It's very simple, but you really want to think about your dream team, like your attorney, your accountant, any advisors, and just make sure you have that set up from the beginning. That way you don't create more work for yourself later. And number 5, this is where things really get fun, is where you start to understand your target market. And the old school way of thinking about target market is demographics like age and sex and location and, very kind of boxed thinking ideas like that. But what I like to think about is, who is your avatar? Think of what your perfect average customer looks like, sounds like, what he or she does on a daily basis, eats. So give your person a name. Like if you're going after 45-year-old guys with 2 kids, is his name Jim? What does he drive? What does he eat? What are his desires? What are his fears? What problems does he or she have that you can solve? And what keeps them awake at night? And once you take it to a much deeper level where you start thinking about beliefs and values and desires and fears that this person has, the more you're going to be able to relate to that person and the more you're going to be able to sell to that person, as opposed to just saying, yes, we're going after 45-year-old males with an average income and in a location of X. That stuff is very weak and surface level and will only get you so far. When you take it deeper to the intangible stuff, your marketing will be better, your reach will be better, and ultimately your business will do a lot better. Number 6, validate your idea. I always say Test fast, fail fast. I don't want to invest 6 to 12 months in a business that has no chance of getting off the ground. I want to be able to test in 90 days or less if a business has a strong viability of succeeding. What I like to do is sell the idea before selling the product. Reach out to people that fit your avatar. And this is really easy to do if you have some type of online business. You can actually create ads either on Facebook or YouTube or one of the social platforms for a product that you are thinking about creating and see what the engagement is, see what the response is. And so many people say, well, Chris, I don't want somebody to steal my idea. If you're thinking like that, don't, okay? Ideas are worthless. Execution is everything. And as you guys have seen in some of the recent interviews with, product designers and angel guys, we've talked about this idea a lot, that your idea means nothing. A lot of people had a similar idea to Uber, but Uber executed on it. So don't be afraid. Don't ask everybody to sign an NDA. Don't worry too much about patents. If you need to, file for a patent pending, but don't spend thousands of dollars and a ton of time on protecting your idea. Validate the idea first. That's worth a lot more. So go out there, ask people what they think, ask people to buy. Even if you're not going to actually take the order, see how many people are willing to pull the trigger. And that's really the biggest test is, are people willing to spend money? Because you can survey and people might tell you that, yeah, that product sounds great, but when you ask for a sale, that's really what matters. And there's an example that's coming up in the interview with Stephen Key, who is the inventor and product genius. And there's a product that's coming to market soon that you'll hear him talk about in that interview. But what he says is this guy who launched this product ended up creating an infomercial before they actually created the product on a mass distribution level to test the market. And I think they ended up getting something like 70 million YouTube views in 6 days. So they validated that idea and they said, okay, this is huge. And then they took those numbers out to funding sources, and now they're about to launch the product globally, and they're expecting big sales. Okay, so after you've validated your idea, number 7 is to identify your competitive advantage, okay? Who are you? What advantages do you have over your other competitors? If you're small, if you're just a one-man or one-lady team, you're lean. You don't have to make big decisions around bureaucracy. If you have an existing staff, you have to spend less time hiring. So, for example, I have a staff of sales, support, and fulfillment for a range of different industries, and we've been designed in a way that we can pivot and either help companies I've invested in, or if we're launching a new business, we can easily assign resources to that industry. So that's just an example of one way that we can be competitive over somebody else who's like starting from scratch. Do you understand technology? This recently has been a huge disruptor. Think Airbnb, think Uber. If you can bring technology to an industry, you can disrupt. And these are recently some of the most profitable private and public companies are people that know how to bring technology to existing markets that are maybe using the same processes and procedures from 100 years ago. So that's just a really great way to have a competitive advantage. And you also want to think about your strengths and weaknesses. I like to do what I call a pre-mortem. A post-mortem is whenever a doctor looks at somebody who died and said, okay, why did this person die? A pre-mortem is looking at a business and saying, why could this business fail? Why? Let's look at all angles. And a lot of people say, ooh, that's grim. I don't want to think that way. I want to think positive, the law of attraction. But if you sit down and you say, what are all the reasons this business could fail? And then you have a contingency plan, that's going to help you from being surprised. That's going to help you from waking up one day and having something happen that you didn't even consider or take the time to consider. And if you have a plan for that, you're going to be able to protect against it. And then number 8 is create a short-term game plan. And I like this a lot more than your initial business plan, because business plans, again, they never go according to plan. But a short-term game plan is very specific. This is where you track the data that is very important to what you're doing. If you're building a website, are you tracking unique visitors? Are you tracking conversions? If you have a brick and mortar business, are you tracking cash flow or sales of certain products so you can optimize your shelves? You want very, very specific, tangible, short-term goals. I'm talking 30, 60, 90 days that you can have your team attack and execute on. And this is where things get really interesting, and you want to look at the difference between patience and pivot. So what I mean by that is, in business, there's a fine line between having the patience to see an idea succeed and knowing when to quit or when to pivot away from something if it's not working. It's a very fine line. And there's cliche quotes for both, right? That say, patience is, just have determination, be patient and persevere no matter what. And then there's the other side of the coin that says, look, fail fast. If something's not working, move on. And as an entrepreneur, you really have to listen to your gut to know when a short-term game plan is working or when you need to pivot and move towards something else. Okay, number 9 is focus on time management. And this is especially true if you are working a full-time job and trying to start a business in your free time. It's really important that you don't play business, meaning that you don't waste time on remedial tasks. You want to focus on what matters the most, which in my opinion, the two most important business functions are product development, creating a great product or a great service, and sales. Sales cures everything. Revenue cures everything. This is one aspect of kind of the tech startup business that I don't like, is you have a whole lot of people that are working on the latest trinket, the latest social platform for X, Y, and Z. I love cash flow businesses. I love sales-based businesses. So as a business owner, if you can just focus on developing the best product or service and getting sales, again, it sounds overly simple, but it's true. And just focus on eliminating unnecessary tasks. For example, don't waste 2 or 3 hours finding the best swag, designing the best t-shirts. Who cares? Slap a logo on it, make an order, or outsource it, which is our next task or our next step. Step number 10, outsource every non-crucial task. What I like to do as an entrepreneur, and I focus on this once a week, is creating a not to-do list. What are the tasks that I don't do? Okay, what are the tasks that under no circumstance should I do that I want to outsource? And I like to use sites like Upwork for outsourcing stuff online. Favor, this is something we have here in Austin, which is a delivery service either for food or shopping. Another is Amazon Prime. Some people make the mistake of going to Walmart or going to the mall. With Amazon Prime 2-day delivery and coming soon to a city near you, the drone drop shipping, there's no reason to take an hour, 2 or 3 to go shopping for stuff when you can go online, one click, buy it, and move on with your day. I'm a huge fan of that. I save so much time. I can't remember the last time I went to the mall or Walmart. That's something that, again, is very time intensive and very low payoff that can be done on autopilot. And just remember these 3 words. Don't waste time. Period, guys. Don't waste time. Step 11, find a mentor or mastermind. Being an entrepreneur can be a very lonely thing. A lot of people, whenever they look at entrepreneurs, they think of it as this glorious, fun thing, which it can be, but it can also be very lonely and depressing at times. So the best way to kind of stay encouraged, because the entrepreneurial journey is like this, up and down, up and down. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. So don't go it alone. Mentors can give you different perspectives. Try to get around people that have been there before, people that have built businesses in your industry, and find out what's worked and what's not worked. A lot of times that can save you millions of dollars. Also, masterminds. I am a huge fan of the right type of mastermind with other high-performance people. You're going to find connections. You can get feedback on what you're doing, and you can find alternative options. Don't go it alone. And then the final step is to network. Networking is really important, and it's kind of an overlooked aspect of building a business. And when I say network, I don't mean going to cheesy networking events. Usually networking events are the worst types of or the worst places to network, because you just have other people there that are like handing out business cards trying to sell each other. When you think about networking, get around people in your industry, go to lunches, have coffee. This is going to help you find the best talent, which is one of the most important things in business. If you have a similar idea and similar skill sets as somebody else in the same industry, the guy or lady that's going to kick ass is the one with the best talent, okay? And by networking, you can also learn from other people in your industry. So that's it. Those are the 12 steps. I highly encourage anybody who's working full-time or has a job that they don't love to start a business. Start the process. And the first few steps of this aren't so sexy, setting up your legal stuff, setting up the structure and the business plan, but focus more on the problem, solving problems, understanding your avatar, understanding your market. And the more that you really dive into that and the more testing you do, and get really efficient at testing fast and failing fast. If a business is going to fail, I want to know in 30 days rather than in 30 years, right? Test fast, execute quickly, find the best talent, and you'll be on your way to becoming a successful entrepreneur. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm certainly enjoying doing these for you. We have amazing interviews already published, and we have some incredible interviews scheduled over the next few weeks. So please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share this with your friends. Please like up the videos. Give us feedback on what you like, what you want to see more of. So thank you. I will see you in the next episode.